it can still feel really weird to talk about the job of being a YouTuber on the platform where your job is housed. But also, the more open we are about what this job entails, the more that we share about what it's realistically like, the more approachable and accessible it becomes for others, which is a good thing. Like, a really good thing. I recall hearing a few years ago that upon surveying a bunch of kids, someone found that the most commonly desired job among them was YouTuber. Editing me is always having to fact check my random memories, and sometimes it's just like, some people may see that as a negative thing, but I think that's pretty awesome. It feels like a replacement for I want to be an actor, or I want to be a singer almost, like the supposedly flashy dream job that kids relate to the most because it's what they're seeing the most frequently. That may have already passed into oblivion though. I feel like now they would say I want to be a Twitch streamer or something. Anyway, as with most supposedly flashy dream jobs that we fantasize about as kids, YouTube is not nearly as flashy and fascinating as many suppose. So my advice to a kid who wants to pursue this as a career would be twofold. Number one, become interested in something. It can be anything, it can be many things, but I don't personally understand the drive to make videos if you have no interests. What will they be about? Number two, start learning to edit now, kiddos. If I'm honest with myself, I think one of the major reasons that I didn't consider YouTube as a possible career for me was that most of the people I enjoyed watching on YouTube seemed to have some sort of background experience in either filmography or editing. Seemed being the key word here because I might have just been making that up in my head. But as someone with neither of those things, how could I even begin to attempt a career based in cameras and software? Granted, the period of time in which that was a hang-up was kind of small because I didn't even have experience as a YouTube viewer until I was like 24? I grew up during the burgeoning years of this new video platform called YouTube, the years that birthed so many famous names. Matt, growing up at the same time as me, albeit on an entirely separate continent, watched all of these people. YouTube was a regular part of his childhood, especially his teenagerhood. I used YouTube to look up movie trailers and occasionally, when it felt very, very safe, a music video. I remember being so paranoid about that side column of suggested videos because you never knew what would be in it, and even the thumbnails could be potentially inappropriate and corrupt my young mind. If you're new here, hey, I grew up in a very sheltered home. So I had almost no experience with YouTube by the time my world collided with Matt's on a cruise ship in Long Beach. I didn't think of it as a place to be entertained or educated. I didn't have the app on my phone. I did not know the name of a single YouTuber or YouTube channel, not even those grand originals. Matt was absolutely flabbergasted by this. Granted, I think there's a broad number of adult humans on this planet that are in the same position nowadays. Despite YouTube being a huge streaming platform now, despite it being mostly watched on TVs like regular entertainment, there are still a lot of people who don't utilize YouTube. I think it's a shrinking number of people, which is interesting and a little exciting as someone whose career is here. And I especially think the number of kids who don't watch YouTube as entertainment has got to be pretty low, which explains the broad desire to grow up to be a YouTuber. So it took me until the age of like 26 maybe to start watching actual YouTubers, because for a few years after Matt introduced me to the platform in a real way, I pretty much only used it for educational content. Shout out to Crash Course, I really did enjoy those. But in that brief period of time between discovering names like Bernadette Banner, Rachel Maxey, and Morgan Donner, and actually starting my own channel, yeah, I was very intimidated by the thought of filming and editing. You had to like take classes for that, right? Not that you needed an entire college degree, but you had to have some level of instruction. It's a whole complex software program. It's what's being done professionally on movies and TV. I can't just randomly learn it on my own, right? Especially considering I am not a technologically advanced human being. I'm benefited by the time period in which I was born, of course, but my hands are much better suited to deal with actual physical objects like scissors and pencils and paper and glue and fabric instead of hardware and software and microchips, and I'm not even good at listing tech terms. Here's the thing. The overall point of this video is that video editing is learnable on your own. It's approachable. If I can do it, you can do that, blah, 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 all that stuff. You get it. We'll get into it. But I feel like I have to preface all of that encouraging stuff with a very blunt reminder. Becoming a YouTuber means learning how to edit videos. Almost always at this point. This could all change very quickly as this platform and industry expands. Yes, we're in an industry. It's fascinating how quickly the reactions to saying I'm a YouTuber have changed. Recently, I said that to somebody in conversation and they responded, "Oh, smart of you to have gotten into the digital media space." That was a new reaction. I was like, yes, thank you. I totally chose to get into the digital media space because I saw its potential. Sure. Already, you could become a YouTuber without ever having to edit. We have numerous full-fledged, legitimate media production companies that operate off of YouTube, unless they're now trying to create their own streaming platform. You could get hired as an employee at Mythical or Smosh or Second Try Entertainment or Theorist Media. Y'all, I am really not well versed in these companies. There's so many more of them that I don't know the names of. I'm still mostly entertained by single people running their entire operation at home. But if you worked at a company like this and you became an on-screen personality, then you are a YouTuber, and you likely never had to touch editing software because they already have an entire professional editing department. I'm actually curious how most of the people who work at these large companies would respond to the question, what do you do? I feel like most of them would not call themselves YouTubers. I don't know though. You also just might be a super lucky person who has someone in their life willing to edit for free. That seems incredibly rare, but I'm sure it happens. A friend, a family member, a random acquaintance who's like, yeah, man, I'll totally edit videos for your channel pro bono. If you have that, give that person a hug. Make them dinner. I don't know. Keep them around. But editing is a professional job for which most people in that industry would expect to get paid. Fairly so. And the joy of YouTube is that you are not guaranteed to make any money from it for an unknown amount of time. Even if you do start making an income, it's gotta be large enough to justify handing off a chunk of it to a secondary person before hiring an editor makes any sense. And by then, logic says you'd have to have learned editing yourself. So it's pretty safe to say that this is the most likely scenario. You'll want to be a YouTuber, so you must learn to edit videos. That's the realistic side of this dream job. Okay, that's one of the realistic sides, but it's the only one we're talking about today, that I think it's important to keep in mind right from the start, even as a 10-year-old thinking about what you want to do when you grow up. Or heck, what you want to do now. There's currently nothing stopping 10-year-olds from being YouTubers. Want to make bets on future legislation in this industry? This whole chat was inspired by a comment I got over on the Stitchery. I just feel like you decided to learn how to edit video one day. That part stood out to me because after giving it 2 seconds of thought, I was like, yeah, I guess I did. And I want to talk about how, because having given you my be realistic, remember you have to learn to edit speech, I'd now like to bring in the approachable side, the encouragement, the you can do it mentality. Because like I said, if I can do it, you can most definitely do it. This is not a thinly veiled editing tutorial like a recipe blog where you have to scroll through the entire story to get to the straightforward stuff. There are numerous editing softwares out there and even more numerous tutorials on how to use them for free here on YouTube. I want to talk about the first steps, the time in between I think I want to try YouTube and actually uploading your first video. The time when you are most likely to procrastinate, throw in the towel, discourage yourself, or decide you can't do it. Boulder Dash! You absolutely can do it. Just go into it being realistic. It's a lot of work, it's a lot of new stuff to learn, and it never ever stops. Sounds fun, right? So there have been a few times that people have asked me for advice in the realm of, I want to be a YouTuber, how do I start? And there are a few points that I give as advice. A few more points than the two that I would give a literal child dreaming of a future career. Number 1, get comfortable on camera. Number 2, figure out what you want. Number 3, learn to edit. Okay, it's basically the same exact advice that I would give to a kid with the addition of like, hey, start learning how to speak and/or show your face to a camera lens. All 3 of those points can of course be expounded on. I have methods that I personally used in each of those areas. In fact, that advice is based on how I got started, as in it's coming from my experience. I didn't have that advice before I got started because YouTube is a super isolating job without a whole lot of community among your peers. Yay! We're working on that. There are so many videos out there with advice for YouTubers, but I struggled to connect with any of them because most of those videos are targeted at people who want to be the next Mr. Beast, people who want to go viral and be huge and follow the trends and do whatever it takes. It's much harder to find realistic advice given by somebody with actual lived experience on how to slowly build a dedicated audience within the niche of your personal interest. For example, in the YouTube makerspace. I keep pretending like that's a real term, but I don't actually know if anyone else is using it yet. I figure it'll catch on eventually. I just think it's a term we need. It's inclusive of so many arts and crafts and creative skills, and it doesn't limit the style of video content at all. The makerspace can be tutorials, project vlogs, educational content, podcasts, product reviews, craft with me content. The makerspace! So I wouldn't in any way, shape, or form call myself an expert. I'm still just struggling along like everyone else, figuring it out as I go. But I do now have a couple of years of experience as a YouTuber in the makerspace over on the Stitchery. And points 1 and 2 can both be expounded upon. So if you would like me to do future videos talking about how I went about those areas at the beginning of my career here, let me know. In this video, we're just gonna stick with the editing topic, point 3. Fun little side note here. I don't actually experience imposter syndrome when it comes to my job itself, like the making of the projects, the making of the videos, the sharing of the videos. I don't know, possibly because since day 1, my motto over on the Stitchery has been, I have no idea what I'm doing. But imposter syndrome sets in hardcore the second that I start giving advice on YouTubing. I'm just like, who are you to offer opinions? You don't get that many views. You're not one of the big ones. Why would anyone want to hear from you? And yes, I am aware of the stupidity behind that reasoning. That's the feral side of my brain. The logic side knows that learning is best accomplished in a ladder. I don't think that's at all how people normally explain that, but you know what I mean? Like, I still need and want to learn from people who have been doing this longer than me or doing it on a larger scale. But at the same time, I have valuable information that I can pass down to people who are newer or doing it on a smaller scale. And those people have information that they can pass on to someone below them. I don't mean like actually below, but just like, you know what I mean? The ladder of learning. We are most benefited when everyone is learning and everyone is teaching. Yeah? I mean, 2 years ago, I would have loved to talk to current me or someone like in my current position. So I'm trying to kill the advice giving specific imposter syndrome. Let's talk about how I learned to edit videos despite having no prior experience and a built-in struggle with technology feature. The first thing that I must point out is that I got lucky. Realistically, I don't think I ever would have become a YouTuber if I had not met and eventually partnered with Matt. Sure, you could maybe hypothesize that I would have eventually stumbled upon it on my own at some point, but it's just as likely that I never would have come to this without him. I mean, seriously, I did not watch YouTube. I did not know that this was a thing people did, this making of videos of them just doing shit. But beyond the big picture discovery of YouTube as an option side of things, Matt also provided services that I drastically needed and continue to need. He loves technology. He loves software. He loves computers. He's into all of that, the little nerd. And I am so freaking grateful. By the time I met Matt, he had already been in a band, learned how to record and mix music basically by himself, made music videos, which yes, of course, he posted on YouTube, and gotten a degree in production, which included some amount of video editing education. Meanwhile, I pulled up in the club like, hey, I've read a lot of books. This is the side of our relationship that falls into the opposites attract trope. Now, what this does not mean is that I fall into that magical category of people I mentioned earlier, those blessed with someone who will edit their videos for free. Matt has never edited a video for me, not even back at the start. What I did weasel him into doing for a couple years was sound checking all of my videos when I was done editing them, but even this, we just gave up on eventually. It was annoying. He doesn't really like doing video sound, and I didn't like having to wait for him to be free before I could move on to uploading the video. So eventually I was like, okay, here's the deal. Give me one thing that I can do to every video to make the sound decent. I can remember one thing. And he told me to put a hard limiter on the master track set on -2 dBi. If all of those words sound foreign to you, they did to me as well. He had to show me 3 separate times before it actually logged its way into my memory. Sound is still the hardest part of editing and filming for me. My brain does not grasp the nuances. Like, what is gain? He's explained it to me probably 15 to 500 times, and I still don't really know. So it's incredibly handy that that is my partner's area of expertise. He sets levels on my mic anytime I get a new one. He has fixed incredibly messed up audio before. He's very handy to have around. Advice number 1, get a partner who knows all the things that you don't. Just kidding. We can do this on our own. But seriously, once I stopped asking him to sound check all my videos, I started learning how to adjust the sound and fix problems by myself. I was capable once I stopped leaning on him. What a marvel. Going back in time though, because I've gotten lightly off topic here, the reason Matt was so pivotal at the beginning of my YouTube career was that he already had video editing software. If you want to boil down all my various struggles with technology to one major point, 'tis this. I hate researching tech so much. I will research so many random things, like all the plants you can grow in your backyard that can be used as fabric dye, or who wrote the first cookbook that was published in America. I'm fascinated. I'm in it. What's that you say? I need to buy a new camera? I need to research what brand and model would be best for me and the work that I do? No, I don't wanna. I'm bored. Again, I would get over this if I did not have a very helpful partner. I just feel the need to point that out. To this day, I ask Matt to do the research anytime I need a new piece of tech, whether it's, I can't even think of the words. It's not a hard drive anymore. I don't use hard drives anymore because he told me to stop using those. The thing that you store all your footage on? Microphones. Cameras. Cameras are a recent example because I have to buy a new camera because this one is crapping out on me. It's gonna have to go. And I went straight to Matt so that he could research the best new option. Although, in all fairness, we don't need to fully go into this, but what I learned in the end is that I should do some research myself. I've succumbed to the reality that once acquired, it is my job to learn how to use my new technology. And I'm getting better at doing that. But the pre-acquiring research on what would be the best for me within my budget and for what I do is just so boring. I get halfway through one video and I'm like, oh my God. Why? And like I mentioned before, There are numerous video editing softwares out there, like probably way more than I've even heard of, so I shan't bother listing them here. But when I came to Matt in 2019 and said, hey, I'm making embroidery patterns and I would like to make video tutorials to go with them, he simply put Final Cut Pro on my laptop. That was it. It was done. I didn't have to research various options and figure out which one I should use and debate between paid or free. I just had to learn the one that had magically appeared on my device, which I did. Fairly decently, if I do say so myself. And then a year or so later, right as I was getting comfortable with Final Cut Pro, really felt like I was hitting my stride, Matt announced to me that that was a terrible option for video editing, and he put Premiere Pro on my laptop. I was not thrilled. Well, okay, I understood. At this point, I can't specifically remember what most of my complaints were about Final Cut Pro, but I had my complaints, and most of them were fixed by Premiere Pro. Although in fixing those, they created a new set of issues for me to complain to him about, prompting him about 2 years later to tell me that I really should be using Final Cut Pro, at which point I nearly throttled him. It's a no for me, dawg. I don't want to learn new tricks, not in this area, not unless I absolutely have to. And that is basically my advice here. Decide on a software and stick with it. People have so many varied opinions on what software is best for who and for what and why, and you can and probably should do some research in that area. But also, people have so many varied opinions. They don't agree, and prior to you actually trying it for yourself and learning the program, you're not gonna know what the crap they're talking about and how it specifically applies to you. So I would say, don't worry about it. Choose one and start learning. The only parameter I would put up here, and again, this is quite general because I simply don't know what all the options are. If you're going for a free option, which is fine, those are great and can last you for years, potentially forever, depending on the style of video that you're making, I would recommend choosing a free one that has a paid option. Typically, a free software is free for a reason. There is something that's been left out, simplified. There are options you don't have. If you're a person like me who's intimidated by video editing, who doesn't do super well with adapting technologically to new and different styles quickly, then it would be beneficial to you to not have to switch, you know? You can start with a free version that might hold you over for years, or heck, maybe even forever, but in case you eventually want something with more options, something more professional per se, it'll be much easier to upgrade within the same program rather than having to switch and learn an entirely new program. They all operate ever so slightly differently because of course they do. It took me months, if not a full year, to adjust to the slightly altered key commands on Premiere Pro after having switched from Final Cut Pro. Hence the reason I have no interest in switching back. Do I personally recommend one software over another? Well, no, I can't do that. I haven't tried all the softwares. Do I recommend one over the other from the two that I've personally experienced? Well, yeah, I'd recommend the one that I'm using right now because I know it better and therefore feel more comfortable with it. But that's not necessarily an accurate recommendation. It's a highly biased one. I will say the way that files are organized in Premiere Pro, like the way that a project is laid out, made way more sense to my brain than Final Cut Pro did. And that's about all I've got in that realm. Though I suppose it's worth noting that if you're really struggling with editing after choosing a software and trying it, there's a potential that you would do better with a different software. But then jumping around from software to software to try to find the one that's best for you would be a giant time and energy suck. So step one of learning how to edit, choose a software, make sure you have options for growth within that software, and then stick with it. Step two, start simple. As the commenter said, I kind of did just decide to learn video editing one day, but it was with a purpose, which I think is really helpful if you're not a person who likes to just fiddle around with technology for funsies. I'll fiddle with markers, I'll fiddle with fabric, I'll fiddle with a whole range of craft supplies. I have no desire to fiddle with software. Having a specific purpose, a specific video that I wanted to create, was helpful to me. But also, I was attempting to create a very simple kind of video. This is the first video I ever uploaded to YouTube on April 21st, 2019. It's 1 minute and 18 seconds long, it is one uninterrupted shot, and it's a simple time lapse. You know what skills I learned in order to make this video? How to adjust the speed of a video clip, and where to find royalty-free music. That's literally it, beyond like how to open the program and import and export your files. I chose a song that I thought was cute off of, I believe, YouTube's royalty-free music library, which still exists but is significantly different now than it used to be. And then I adjusted the speed of a single video clip until it perfectly matched that song. I did not know how to cut yet. I didn't know how to zoom in or out. I didn't know how to layer footage or add voiceover. I didn't know how to adjust lighting or color. Let's be real, I didn't even know what the term color grading meant for years after that. So start simple. Learn a new skill within the software, learn one thing at a time. And that may mean that you don't post the first few videos, maybe you just make them for practice, for you. That's totally okay. I didn't go into YouTube with much of a plan. I had no expectations to be doing this when I started doing this. I was really only thinking about embroidery tutorials at the time. Shots of my hands, close up, downward, whatever it is, doing the thing, with voiceover to provide instructions where needed, and music that would inevitably garner divided opinions from the audience, as all music choices will. I think if I had started my YouTube channel expecting to make the style of videos that I make now, these project vlogs where I appear on screen and I take you through the whole process, which can take days, if not weeks, I probably would have made some tester videos back at the start. So considering what you want your channel to be, start simple within that parameter or with that expectation in mind. And this kind of involves my second advice point, but it is all mashed together here at the beginning. Film yourself doing a thing in the style that you think you'd like to do that thing on your channel, in the style that you would like your videos to have, but maybe take the pressure off of it. Tell yourself this one is an experiment, this one is a trial run, this one is to learn. Unless you're the type of person who thrives on doing it for real right from the start, which, like, honestly, yeah, that's me. I like the high stakes of this being a thing that people are actually going to see, mixed with the low stakes of there being zero expectations. No one is sitting around waiting for you to start a YouTube channel. No one is drumming their fingers on the table in expectation of your high-quality professional content. And hopefully that's really, really comforting. So if knowing that this is going on the internet helps you commit to doing the thing and finishing the thing, then commit to putting it on the internet. You can always delete it later, you know, or leave it there forever as a testament to your own growth. And if you have a brain that is going to commit to learning better if you know no one is ever going to see the final results of those first few tries, then do that. Commit to practicing on stuff that will never see the light of day. But either way, commit to making a video and to finishing a video, and commit to learning something new in your editing software with every video that you make. Are there smudges on my glasses? I feel very smudgy. More than likely, you will learn multiple new things on every video for the first several months, if not even years, but it does slow down eventually, especially depending on what style of video you're making. Nowadays, it's a little more rare for me to randomly minimize Premiere in the middle of an editing session so I can dig up a tutorial on a very specific task, but it does still happen. I probably only know how to use about 35% of Premiere Pro, if I had to give a guess. Even that seems generous. Honestly, I'm embarrassed to tell you how long it took me to find the select all key command. Years. It took me years, y'all. I was just dragging a box over everything that I wanted selected, and that worked for me, so I didn't question if there was a quicker and easier way to do it. I just accepted the slow way. You don't actually have to know that much to turn out an enjoyable, entertaining video. A lot of the more complex stuff that I've learned over the years was actually just to fix something that went wrong or wasn't ideal during shooting. Like, look, if your footage has great lighting, you won't ever need to color correct, much less color grade. Want to know a secret? I never color grade any of my videos. I often move throughout different rooms in the course of a video, film at different times of day, and the lighting and the color and the look will change with each of those changes. And I just leave it because I don't care. I'm not making a movie here. I'm not trying to match footage. I'm not trying to establish a mood via the lighting. I am a real person in a real house with real sunlight or the lack thereof acting on my work. And I want that to come across in my videos. Granted, I've learned recently, due to the whole having to get a new camera debacle, just a debacle, that this has a lot to do with the type of camera I'm using. But that's a good point too. If you're not a pro editor, then use a camera that's not going to force you to be a pro editor. Like, your iPhone is going to give you better footage than a lot of really expensive professional cameras would, because your iPhone assumes that you don't want to have to touch that footage, and therefore it fixes a lot of things for you. We love it. Thank you very much. If you're making a different style of video or you're using a different type of camera, then you may need to learn color grading eventually, but that's definitely not a skill that you have to have mastered before you can upload your first YouTube video. Stick to the basics of editing at first, and I guarantee that you can create an enjoyable video. If you have some other things in place, that is. Editing can do a lot, but editing is not everything. There is always going to be a balance between what you have managed to capture in your raw footage and what you managed to turn out in your edited video. Great editing can potentially make up for not so great footage, but great footage can drastically lessen the amount of editing skill required. Starting out with embroidery tutorials really allowed me to focus on basic editing skills without much distraction yet. Tutorials are great, and I applaud the people who make them. If you want to make actual step-by-step tutorials for whatever it is that you do, your job is going to be harder in some ways, but also easier in a lot of ways. In my opinion, tutorials are much easier to edit and way harder to film, unless you filmed them poorly, as I have often done, in which case they're harder to edit as well. I know, it's a blast. Why do you think I stopped making tutorials? The embroidery tutorials were not hard to edit, which is great because I was super slow back then. It's to be expected. Expect yourself to be super slow at the start, and do not get upset with yourself if that's the case. It is okay, you will speed up as you improve your skills. I think one of my early tutorial videos took me like 12 days to edit, and looking back at that now, I'm like, what the crap was I doing? They were, however, very tough to film because you need very good lighting if you're trying to film something that close up. And also, you have to stand in really weird positions if you want to be able to film your hands doing something without like a giant part of your head covering up the frame and your focus going in and out all the time. God, the back pain I experienced during that era of my life, 'twas extreme. But despite it taking me ages for some reason, the editing was fairly simple. Cut the footage, smash the footage together, speed up certain parts of this footage, layer voiceover, add text to the screen. That was weirdly more complicated to learn than I thought it would be. And finally, add music. So if you want to make tutorials, still get on that editing, start practicing, but from experience, I would say you probably need to spend more time figuring out how to film the tutorial clearly than how to edit it clearly. Yeah, editing becomes much more complex and much more invasive is the word that comes to mind, but I don't think that's really the right word for what I'm thinking. It has much more all-around effect on the final product, the video, when you start creating stories. If you aren't watching videos like mine, what I would call project vlogs, with the eye and ear of a video maker or a potential video maker, then you might not be really aware of the fact that there is a cohesive story throughout it, that there's a plot that I put time and effort and thought into. But there is a distinct difference between the first 27-ish of my videos, all embroidery tutorials, and the 28th one, this guy. Even though it still featured just my hands with voiceover, I still didn't appear on screen, it was the first time that I was telling a story through a video instead of just sharing information. I still have quite a soft spot for that video because to me, it's really the start of what my channel was going to become. me being super excited about some random thing and wanting to share. Storytelling through video is a weird concept for YouTubers in the makerspace. It's a tough concept. If you're making a video essay, even one like this that I wouldn't necessarily call a video essay, you can script and prepare your entire video in advance. These second channel videos are comparatively so easy to make. Digital Spaghetti, which is a great channel to watch if you are a YouTuber or want to be a YouTuber, although I would still say it's more generally helpful than specifically helpful if you're in the maker space. Did a great interview with Life of Riza where she shared how she fully storyboards her entire videos in the same way that you would expect a legit filmmaker to, which is why it's kind of stupid that some people are called legit filmmakers and other people aren't, just because of where their films premiere. But that's a whole other discussion. I mean, that's a whole genre on YouTube. Filmmakers using YouTube as their platform. Honestly, it's not one that I have much knowledge of or that I consume very much, but it's another style of video that does get talked about a lot on channels like Digital Spaghetti. And that's why I say that these videos can be generally helpful, because the way that people are making this style of video, like the Life of Riza style, what I would maybe call like fantasy vlogs. I feel like there's probably a title for this style of video, but I don't know what it would be. It feels like a vlog, as in the content is by definition rather vloggy, but it's not actually a candid, unscripted vlog, you know? It is actually a movie, a fully scripted and storyboarded and planned out film, whether the topic is a day in somebody's life, or self-help advice for people, or even a deep dive into a specific topic. Like Answer in Progress is one channel that comes to mind that's kind of done in this style. Okay, I feel like I'm tangenting. Back on track. My point is, that's a very different type of video than the style of project vlog that I make, but it is talked about more and with higher regard. And therefore, if you watch a bunch of videos about people making this style of video when you are planning to make quite a different style of video, it can end up being rather overwhelming and discouraging. Because how on earth could I storyboard a video in which I make a thing that I'm not sure will turn out? I have no idea what snags or hiccups or bumps in the road I'm gonna come across when I start a new project. I don't know if it's gonna turn out right or well, or in the way I'm even imagining. I don't know what parts are gonna end up being the most interesting, and what parts might be really funny, and what parts might be a struggle, and what parts might be incredibly boring. Sometimes it's the opposite of what you originally guess. I don't know what random topics of conversation this project will inspire in me as I go. So how do you plan out a story? How do you ensure that your video will flow from start to finish and that the viewer will be engaged the whole time when you have little to no idea what the crap is gonna happen? Anyone else want to answer that question for me? Because I'd love to hear somebody else's answer to that question. Editing helps. Editing helps a lot. Trust me, I want my plans and my scripts and my footage to make my job as an editor easier, but that is not always how the cookie crumbles. It's kind of rarely how the cookie crumbles. More often, my job as an editor is to somehow magically fix the mess that was the project itself, or more accurately, the mess that was the way I documented the project. Now, I will say the wonderful thing about growth and learning and experience is that over the last few years, I've seen my two halves, the editing half and the filming half, start working together way better, communicating better. I mean, at this point, it's not even two halves. It is a whole conference room full of versions of me. The writer, the producer, the researcher, the on-screen talent, the videographer, the photographer, the editor, the marketing person, the office administrator who's keeping track of all the schedules, the assistant who answers all the emails. Good Lord, there's a lot that goes into being a YouTuber. Are you prepared to do 10 or 12 different jobs all at the same time? Focusing back on the editing version of yourself though, editing can fix a lot. It can create a story where you totally forgot to put one. It can make the slow parts interesting or just make them disappear. It can highlight the things that were funny or even create humor out of thin air. It can turn a very average make into a fascinating exploration. But you don't need to know how to do all this on day one. Heck, you don't even need to know how to do it on day 763. I'm not kidding or dumbing it down or making it sound easier than it is when I say that you will learn the technical side of editing way faster than you think. Just keep working on it. Every time you think to yourself, oh, I'd like to maybe try that thing that I've seen sometimes in video, pause, go look up a tutorial on that specific thing, and learn how to do it. People have made very specific tutorials for editing, and it is way easier to look up a very specific thing than to generally search how to edit with this specific software. Even if you have to start at the very beginning, do it. Start at the very beginning. How to open a session in whatever editing software you've chosen, how to import footage, how to make a sequence. Usually there is a walkthrough within the software itself for all that starting stuff. You know, one thing I remember specifically having to look up and learn how to do is this. This seems in my brain like it would just be a single button you have to click or something, but no, turns out it's actually like a whole series of steps that I had to learn how to do multiple times so that my brain would actually commit it to memory. At one point, I wanted to do it in a more typing way instead of like a smooth roll on. I wanted to do like that, this is being typed live effect. And I looked it up and I learned how to do it and I did it that once and then I went, ha! That's not worth committing to memory. That was just way too many steps. I will never do it again. There is still so much about my editing software that I have yet to learn. You can make videos for years and still have so much to learn, and that's totally okay. Start simple. Just decide one day that you're gonna learn video editing. Cut a clip in half, smash it together, speed up the second half, throw some music on it. Congrats, you just edited a video. And from there, the technical skills of editing will introduce themselves to you one by one, more and more, every single time you practice. And the creative skills of editing, well, this video is already long enough. If you want me to share my thoughts on advice 1 and 2, or what I've learned about creating a story in your video using that entire office full of versions of yourself, let me know. I'm still a little unsure about making videos with advice for YouTubers because, let's be honest, it's a niche. And it's not a niche I'm technically in. I kind of always hope that YouTube viewers will find these videos interesting because I'm a nosy Nancy who always wants to know what's happening behind the scenes. But that is not true of everyone, and that is perfectly fine. But yeah, as I've been thinking more about the community that is YouTubers in the makerspace, or rather the community that could be, I find myself wanting to help others, to encourage others as much as possible, because it can only make our industry better if we share. I hope that the digital media space does continue to grow. I hope that I get to be a YouTuber for a long, long time. And I also hope that new faces will continue to emerge in this space. Hopefully more diverse faces, because the makerspace does kind of have a diversity problem. And while I'm eager to learn from those who know more than me, I'm also very eager to support those coming up around me, because not everybody has a partner who will just stick editing software on your laptop for you. So that's it for now, but I'd be happy to share more if it is so desired. Whew! I was gonna say you'll be seeing a lot more of this specific project during these second channel videos, but that was very hard to work on while filming this video. There was no flow there. Anti-flow is what just happened. There's a plane going by. Yeah. I got snot. It's multiplying. Come here. Oh God. We're doing great. I'm always sitting at weird angles at this table to try to avoid the white sheet on the glasses from the doors. So I'm like, how can I like position myself this way so that you can see my eyes, I guess? Ow! Why you gotta be there, table? Let's be real, it was oh, honey. That bird just hit the window. That was like 2 trains meeting. Where is this even happening? I've never seen train tracks near us. Pretty sure I just heard Matt fart from all the way out here. Is this video gonna be like 3 hours long? Because I feel like I just spent half a lifetime filming it.